There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Hello and welcome to the Early Line on SportsGrid. I am Ben Stevens. He is Donnie Rightside, and this is a Thursday all across the SportsGrid network. And that, of course, includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. We are together for the next 3 hours, up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time, bright and early on this Thursday. The countdown ticks on ahead to Super Bowl 59, 10 days away from our matchup in New Orleans. We will continue to break down each and every angle of Super Bowl 59 between the Eagles and the Chiefs, and including the biggest storylines and the narratives that we have for the biggest game of each and every NFL season. Big night around the association, an 11-game slate to break down, a lot of college basketball action that continues on a Thursday. Donnie Rightside is red hot in hoops. We'll keep it all rolling here up until 11 a.m. Eastern on the Early Line.
Trusting your numbers in the NBA and also in NCAA basketball has been profitable. I know last night I went against the Bible last night. Wait a second. A team that's ranked lower at home switches over, reverse line movement to the favorite. People. We stayed with Alabama last night. And then St. Mary's, if you just want to have a better plan than a 401k, it's just betting on St. Mary's on a night-to-night basis. Yeah. Feels like that's doing just fine. And also yesterday, the estimated practice reports for the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs released. Today, these teams will actually practice in real time a little bit later in the afternoon. So the engines get flowing towards Super Bowl 59, and we're ready here at the SportsGrid Network.
We absolutely are. The biggest storylines and the narratives to monitor throughout the biggest game of each and every football season a little bit later on in the show. But let's start with some basketball action from a Wednesday evening. 11-game slate around the association. The best team in the NBA entering Wednesday, the Oklahoma City Thunder. And Donnie, if I tell you that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scores 52 points, too shy of his career best that he set just a few weeks ago, you tell me how many points OKC won by. Except they didn't win last night in San Francisco. It was the Golden State Warriors pulling off the outright upset as a double-digit home underdog, 116-109. Shai scored 52. Jalen Williams had 26 for the Thunder. But outside of that, in the starting lineup, 10 combined points from the other three. A much more balanced effort out of the Dubs, picking up a huge home win, now back above 500.
Yeah, we talked about this one yesterday. The Warriors holding out against Utah, Steph Curry, to make sure he was able to play against the Thunder, and it worked out as they were still getting double digits in this game. But it is funny with SGA getting the 52. Like, if you would have told me he scored 32, I'm like, man, Thunder won by 50 points in that game, because that's usually what he does. The 52, I guess, skewed it there where he was so damn good, nobody else could participate. But that's a nice win for the Warriors, something that we expected yesterday. Yeah. Big-time home dog. We rode it to an absolute positive there with a cover.
Just too many points. Did close at 9.5, nearly double digits, but the Dubs still win outright, 13-9 against the spread. And now Golden State again, back above 500 with a winning margin at 24-23. Big time game inside Madison Square Garden. The New York Knicks hosting the Denver Nuggets. The Knicks only a 2.5-point home favorite inside the world's most famous arena, but another big victory for New York. They win 122-112. A total of 241 does barely stay under, but still in a high-scoring affair. Big night for Jalen Brunson, leading the Knickerbockers to a victory in that Garden Party.
Liked it last night. Talked about the Knicks winning that game, being slight favorites in that one, also putting up 122 points, which is a lot light for them over the past couple of games that we're used to seeing them drop 140. But I told you yesterday, trying to focus in on some of those Eagle fans that are on the Knicks. You take a look at Brunson. 30 points, 15 dimes, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. And being a point guard, only 2 turnovers in that game. Great win for the New York Knicks at home, 32-16 now.
32-16, booked as a favorite in now 43 of 48 games this year, 23-19-1 against the spread. A couple of double-doubles in that starting lineup, all 5 for New York last night, scoring in double figures. Elsewhere in the world of basketball, we go to the collegiate ranks, another top 15 matchup within the SEC, and number 4, Alabama, despite closing as a 1.5-point underdog on the road in Starkville, wins outright against 14th-ranked Mississippi State. 23 points from Chris Youngblood leads the way, despite 38 from Josh Hubbard on the other side for the Bulldogs. Alabama outright. Now perfect 4-0 straight up, booked as an underdog this season.
Absolutely. Liked Alabama yesterday, and sometimes it's not about line reversals and where the money is going. Sometimes it's just about the numbers that they provide. We told you yesterday, Alabama likes to shoot the 3-point shot, and that's the way to attack Mississippi. How about going on the road, Ben? 15 of 31 from 3-point range, 48%. That's enough to get the job done. Big-time win by the Crimson Tide on the road at the hump at Mississippi State.
Second consecutive night, a road underdog in a top 15 tilt in the SEC won outright. Kentucky over Tennessee, Alabama over Mississippi State last night. The Crimson Tide now perfect outright as an underdog, as we shared. We'll tell you who those wins have been against, because it is bolstering the resume in Tuscaloosa. This was one of those spots, Donnie, that if you follow college basketball and you read the lines, you know what is expected. Maryland, slightly unranked, like 27th in the country in the receiving votes category, but still unranked. A 5.5-point home favorite in College Park against 17th-ranked Wisconsin, who has been on a heater. Maryland wins 76-68. Big victory for the Terrapins. They will be and should be ranked in the AP Top 25 come next week.
We talk about home court advantage, and the headline yesterday was the Maryland students were back on campus, sold out student section. You knew they would bring the pain last night, and they did. And you're right about that. Sometimes you can just read lines, and you read them wrong with Mississippi State if you went against Alabama, even though that line was correct to go towards Mississippi State. You saw the same sort of line with Maryland going like, ooh, if I'm just reading a line, that is a Maryland line. They won, and they covered it home.
The 2 guards in the starting lineup, everybody scored at least 12 points, but Jacoby Gillespie and Rodney Rice continue to be a fearsome duo, both scoring 16 points last night. Might we see a change to the NBA quarters format? Adam Silver on the Dan Patrick Show yesterday, the commission, the association, saying they are mulling over the idea of making the quarters 12 minutes down into just 10 minutes, DRS.
Yes, and I like this because I really enjoyed the Olympics over the summer and realized how quick those games and compact they were, and they're always trying to fit that game into a 2-hour or so window. I think it'll help the players long term because one thing we do know is players aren't taking any less money, which means less gates, which means less actual games themselves. Shorten the games up a little bit, save some of these players, more action-packed here. I don't mind it one bit. I think it's good. But also, how about this? Hey, we want to shorten the games. Hey, Adam Silver, how about less commercial? You can really shorten the game as well. How about that? Didn't think about that.
Just play them. Yeah, play them on time for sure. But he has floated the idea. Caitlin Clark passes on the invite to be a part of the All-Star three-point shootout this year. She wants her first three-point contest to be during WNBA All-Star Weekend in Indianapolis.
Hey, somebody actually making a smart decision here. Come on, man. You're working on your off season. You're having fun. You're going on vacations, doing what you got to do. You really want to go and have a three-point contest in a league that's not even yours? Good for her. Build the WNBA. You want to watch her? Watch the WNBA. Watch those ratings rise. Watch those paychecks get higher. Good for her.
Watch her do it at her home in Indy. Should be exciting this summer. The New York Jets, under Aaron Glenn, starting to fill out the staff. New defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, longtime NFL coach. Plenty more on the early line reactions around the association. Up next.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Around the association we go from a Thursday morning here, a Wednesday night in the NBA. 11 games in the association. We are past the midway point of this NBA regular season. Now exactly 1 week away from that NBA trade deadline, an All-Star weekend not all that far behind as well. DRS big matchup last night in San Francisco. a line that seemed peculiar for Golden State, pretty much at full health, even resting Stephen Curry the night prior against the Utah Jazz to play in a marquee matchup against the NBA's best team entering Wednesday. The Oklahoma City Thunder and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who dropped 52 on the Dubs, albeit in a losing effort. Golden State wins at home as a 9.5-point underdog outright, 116-109. Big victory for Golden State, Donnie. Now a game above 500 once again at 24-23.
Yeah, how about Kevon Looney off the bench, too, adding 18 points and a plus 14, which is impressive. But we always know if you're going to give Steph chances to get open from the three-point line, he's going to knock them down. Fresh and ready, 5 of 10 from three-point range, 50%. And quite frankly, when you look at the box score itself, 116-109, great effort by Golden State. But it wasn't so much that Golden State was fantastic on offense. Only shot 34% from three-point range, did do very well from the free throw line, but it was just the fact that OKC coming into this game only shot 40% as a team from the field, which included 23% from three-point range. Sometimes it is just better to be at home. You get the good shooting eyes. You're used to being at home. You're sleeping in your own bed. OKC, even though one of the best teams in the NBA, you are going to have off nights here, and they had an off night last night.
And because of the loss, Oklahoma City now 37-9, a half game behind the Cavaliers for the best record in the association. Cleveland winning by 20 on the road last night in South Florida against Miami. Of course, the Heat, sans Jimmy Butler as a slight road favorite. 38-9, the number for Cleveland. OKC, one fewer win. But a big victory for the Dubs, and it's been an interesting year, Donnie. The Warriors started 12-3. Whoa! Post-Splash Brothers era after Klay Thompson left this offseason. Maybe Golden State still has a little bit left in the tank entering last night from that 12-3 start, an 11-20 record. So a big win to get back above 500. Golden State this year, 13-9 against the spread as an underdog. From San Francisco to the other coast in New York, inside Madison Square Garden. Marquee matchup as well between the Knicks and the Nuggets. New York closing is just a 2.5-point favorite, and something that continues to boggle the mind, a total on the rise to 241.5 for a Tom Thibodeau coach team and the New York Knicks. But they're an offensive juggernaut right now, scoring 122 points last night to beat the Nuggets by double digits and cover as a 2.5-point home favorite.
Yeah, getting over 120 there and only shooting 18 total free throws. And by the way, only making 66% of that, but it didn't matter. This team is really moving the basketball well on offense, and this is what we anticipated. Once you saw the Karl Anthony Towns trade to the New York Knicks, you knew they were getting a massive upgrade, but it might take just a little bit of time to get that offense in measure. Bridges, Anunoby, Cat, Brunson, Hart, everybody now fitting together here. And the one thing that we do know is you're going to play a lot of starters, a lot of minutes here. 37, 39, 30, 36, and 34. If, and that is a big if, that they can stay healthy throughout the remaining parts of the regular season and the playoffs, that's going to hold well. But also, what do we always think is interesting with the Denver Nuggets? Hey, they lost a game. Yeah, they're going to lose games. They lost 19 on the season. They're okay on the road, dropping to 14-11. But Nikola Jokic playing 33 minutes and only having 17, 6, and 6. Usually just look at that box score and be like, well, I know he had at least close to 20 points. You can automatic time stamp that he got 10 rebounds, and he probably came around between 8 to 12 assists, no doubt about it. That's great defense being played on Nikola Jokic, not letting him set the pace for his own team. That's where New York won the game last night.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Donnie. I actually looked at the box score, saw Nikola Jokic only have that line of 17, 6, and 6 this morning and thought, uh-oh, did the Joker get injured? Did he only play 20 minutes because the game was a rout that did not even reflect the final score? No, he was out there for more than a half an hour. Just didn't work out last night for the Nugs. Denver falls back to 7-6 against the spread as a dog. The Knicks expected to look like this, expected to be a contender in the Eastern Conference. Third best mark right now, only a game behind Boston, 6.5 behind Cleveland atop the Eastern Conference. But 32-16, winners of 5 in a row. They have covered in 4 of those 5 consecutive wins and booked as a favorite in 43 of 48 games. Now 23-19-1 ATS. A virtual pick'em last night in the Valley. An interesting game between two teams that had won 3 straight, both that we expected to probably be in a better position at this stage of the season than they currently are. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Phoenix Suns. So the T-Wolves, as a slight road dog in Phoenix, win outright. 121, 113, 33 points out of Anthony Edwards, 33 for Kevin Durant as well, 28 for Devin Booker, and 17 off the bench for Bradley Beal, but still not enough for Phoenix. T-Wolves head coach Chris Finch got ejected. It got a little bit testy at the end of the basketball game. A good one last night in Phoenix, and the Wolves will take that win.
Yeah, we gave the slight bump yesterday to the T-Wolves. Why? Because Anthony Edwards is a great basketball player, dropped 33 points as he should, and as you said, Randall with 28 points. But the focus, once again, goes back on Phoenix. It seems like it's been years where you say, okay, Kevin Durant got you 33. Booker got you 28. Can somebody else help us in the starting lineup? No, they can't. Royce O'Neal, 4 points. Nick Richards, 7 points. Tyus Jones, 5 points. Come on now. And look, I understand that Bradley Beal, 25 minutes off the bench, 6 of 10, 17 points did help out. Yeah. But they're just, hey, Jimmy Butler away from running away with the Western Conference, I hear. So good luck, Phoenix.
I mean, the depth is the issue. Now Beal, even off the bench, can't provide that spark with the second unit. So when you look at these two teams right now, Donnie, they remain in the same spots. The 7 and in the play-in tournament, the Suns actually fall to 9. 24 and 22 for Phoenix, 26 and 21 for the T-Wolves. Minnesota has won 4 straight, 7-3-1 against the spread this year for the Timberwolves as a dog, 5-6 straight up. By the way, did you see who scored 27 last night and hit exactly 3 threes?
Oh, yeah. Norm Powell. Always got you.
Yes, he did. The Clippers, the best favorite in the NBA, now 16-6 against the spread.
Loved them.
They win by 12. As a short favorite in San Antonio over the Spurs. College basketball recaps next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You want me to solve all this tush-push and fourth down malarkey that goes on with the officials? Here's the crazy idea. Get rid of the worst rule in the NFL, and that is forward progress. How about this? Where I knock your ass in the ground is where the ball goes, period. Let's end this whole conversation. Like, if I drop you back 4 yards, then you lost 4 yards. If we get rid of forward progress, this tush-push and everything else is taken care of. Where I put your tail on the ground is where the ball goes, end of conversation. It's the dumbest rule and the most arbitrary rule. The only thing that is a worse call in the NFL than forward progress is the punt that goes out of bounds when you watch the official walk down the sideline having absolutely no clue where that ball crossed over. All I can think of is that Price is Right game go do-de-do-de-do, do-de-do-de-do, as he's walking down the sideline, arbitrarily trying to figure out where the ball crossed over because he's got no clue.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on a Thursday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid. We go around college basketball from a Wednesday night and rinse, wash, repeat, a top 15 tilt within the SEC. When you have 7 teams ranked in the AP's top 15, you're going to have a lot of these situations, as we did last night in Starkville. number 14, Mississippi State hosting number 4, Alabama. And the line throughout the day, Donnie, continued to work to Chris Jans' Bulldogs. They close as a 1.5 favorite, minus 132 on the money line, and a total at 164.5. It is always key when you are contesting Alabama to try to keep the pace just a little bit slower for the nation's fastest team in college basketball. Didn't work last night. The Tide roll as an underdog outright in Stark Vegas, winning 88-84. Alabama now this year, a perfect 4-0 outright in their 4 games booked as an underdog.
If we just read lines, and it always worked that way, Ben, we'd all be millionaires. There'd be no FanDuel Sportsbook, no Las Vegas. So sometimes you have to outstep that comfort zone when you're handicapping games, because all those red flags were there last night. Wait a second here. Alabama's probably the better basketball team. Alabama was favored. Now at game time, they're not favored here. It's a road game in the SEC. Everything was lining up at that point. And so, you know what? Let me just trust the numbers that we see here, where I do have a major advantage at the 3-point line, and it worked out that way. You're not supposed to go into an opposing team's gym with a decent defense and shoot close to 50% from 3-point range. And sometimes you see those numbers like, 25%, 30%. Of course, that reads right into the line. But for me, I just thought Alabama had such a decided advantage at the 3-point line that it would work towards their advantage, and it did. 15 of 31 from 3-point range on the road, shot almost 50% as a team from the field on the road, which helped them out. And by the way, didn't do themselves any favors here. The way you put basketball games away is to make your free throws. 11 of 20 on the road in a contested game and still escaped with a victory. Why? That's because they made their 3-point shots as we anticipated.
And they're a really good defensive team as well, despite playing at that fast pace. Yeah. Josh Hubbard had 38 points for the Bulldogs, the outstanding guard for Chris Jans. 14 of 28, hoisted 15 threes of his own. Nobody else in the starting lineup had more than 8. Keyshawn Murphy did score 18 off the bench for the Bulldogs. But when you have Chris Youngblood out there dropping in 7 threes for Alabama, that's a good sign. 23 points to lead the way last night for Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide. Donnie, as I mentioned, perfect 4-0 outright for Alabama this year as an underdog. Here are the wins against those 4 teams: Houston, North Carolina, Kentucky, in Mississippi State. The Tide over in 3 of those 4 outright as a dog. A stellar resume, as you might expect, for the Crimson Tide. Mississippi State started 14-1, but as some teams around the SEC are starting to see, once you get into this gauntlet of a conference, things ratchet up. They have now dropped 4 of their last 6. Let's go elsewhere around the country last night in college basketball. Donnie, you mentioned, right, if you just read the lines, there would be no Las Vegas. You and I would be on a beach somewhere kicking back and drinking Mai Tais right now. One of those games that would have helped us profit was last night in College Park. Unranked Maryland, barely unranked, but still technically unranked in the AP Top 25, laying 5.5 at home against a really good Wisconsin team ranked 17th in the country. That line being 5.5, not even just like 2.5, should have told you all you needed to know. The Terps cover and pick up yet another huge victory, 76-68 over the Badgers.
Yeah, it always works the same way, because I think an NBA game yesterday that we're looking at, too, the 2 touchdowns with the Chicago Bulls. It's like, boy, if you're just looking at that line, stone cold Celtics line, handling their business at that point. So, yes, sometimes you just read them. And also, Ben, just reading lines and handicapping with those St. Mary's Gales. Now 9-0 in conference play last night. Didn't we tell you the number 1 rebounding team on offense in conference play, coupled with the number 1 rebounding team in conference play? Look at the final statistics, Ben. 39 rebounds to 25. And I believe St. Mary's had like a 22-0 run in that basketball game to win by double digits. The Gales, baby, getting ready for March Madness.
St. Mary's suffocated Santa Clara early. Then it got dicey in the second half. The Broncos even took a slight lead. St. Mary's wins by 13 and covers as a 4.5-point road favorite. 3rd consecutive quad 1 victory for Kevin Willard and the Terps, by the way. DRS, we thought there might be a couple of trap spots on the board for some of the nation's best. Auburn and Houston on the road. Nope. Janai Broome is back in a big way for the Tigers. Texas Tech playing great basketball. Ole Miss responds against Texas. You see UConn and DePaul. Double-digit victory for Connecticut. Blue Demons cover as a 13.5-point dog, but UConn was trailing at the break. Interesting times. More around the NFL next.
going to get rid of all the badness, if you will, over the past few decades for the Raiders and set yourself up for the future. It's a horrible job to take if you expect to win, but it's not a bad paying gig, so go ahead and take it.
With an owner in Mark Davis who has continued to make bad decision after bad decision. Does Pete Carroll leave a culture behind that Joe Brady in 2 to 3 years takes over?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
We'll see if they get McCain back. Kelly Oubre, Yabusele's been good. Caleb Martin's a defensive specialist. Andre Drummond can still give you, almost a double-double at any point. I can't go south on this team. And now you're giving it to me at 2-1 to make the playoffs? To be in the Final 8? Folks, give me the Philadelphia 76ers to make the playoffs at plus 210.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
NFL headlines now in the offseason for 30 of 32 National Football League franchises. Of course, we are 10 days out from Super Bowl Sunday. We will talk the Chiefs and the Eagles and the biggest storylines in just a bit. Here are some of the biggest headlines from a Wednesday around the NFL. New head coach in New York, Aaron Glenn, starting to fill out his first Jets staff, and he has hired Steve Wilks as the new defensive coordinator for Gang Green. Donnie, Steve Wilks, maybe you remember him as an interim head coach in Carolina, getting his team to play well. The head coach in Arizona, who was ousted after only 1 year. He's highly respected on the defensive side of the ball, and in my estimation, has received raw deals as a head coach in the few gigs that he has had. I think it's a great hire for the New York Jets, of course, under the defensive-minded Aaron Glenn as well.
Yeah, stability. And by the way, being fired after 1 year in the NFL, badge of honor, you got paid 4 more years to hang out, relax, and do your job for another team in a better organization. I like that. It's a fantastic hire because I keep saying the one thing I need with the Jets is accountability. He's bringing a staff that you will need accountability if you want to get on that football field. Love the move for the Jets. I like it's crazy. Like, you're never supposed to like anything the Jets do because it's usually backwards. The Jets are doing everything they can to say, you know what, at least on Sundays, if we win or lose, when I stand up in that press conference, we're not going to hear about, oh, what did the quarterback have to say, or these high-priced veterans don't care about playing. Accountability is back in New York, and I love it.
Yeah. And Steve Wilks is going to be not just the defensive coordinator in title, but actually calling the defensive plays, which I think if you're a Jets fan, you're happy about. Because
you like it.
Aaron Glenn, the DC in Detroit, right? But you don't really want him solely focused on defense or in the weeds there. You have to be a manager. You have to be a delegator when you are the head of an organization now. So that's probably good news for the Jets as well.
It's great news because the CEO head coach is very important to me in a lot of equations. Usually on offense, if you have an Andy Reid, of course he's going to call the plays. But he's going to be on the headsets with the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Not calling plays, but giving his thought process like you should. Hey, blitz is coming in here. Hey, that next play, if it's 3rd and 12, do a little softer coverage. He won't call the play, but he's just going to guide that light there. And I love that. CEO head coaches certainly can work out in professional sports. We've seen it many times in the NFL.
And, of course, Aaron Glenn has the resume as well. Understanding the schematics defensively will be involved in all of those meetings and the game plan. But on game day, focusing on what a head coach should prioritize. Patrick Graham, defensive coordinator this past year in Las Vegas, who was maybe interviewing for a couple of other jobs, will return to Las Vegas as the DC, I believe, under now new head coach Pete Carroll.
Great place to live. Hey, 2 years, you'll be out of a job there. It's not your fault. You set this lineup straight here at this point. So I don't really have too many comments on the Raiders because they ain't going nowhere for 2 years when maybe the Jets could move up.
What's the deal with Max Crosby's contract this offseason? He signed an extension a few years ago now. I don't think his contract is through, but there was some conversation that maybe he wasn't all that pleased with Sin City and trying to get his way out. Of course, one of the best defensive players in the National Football League. Matthew Stafford told the Rams that he wouldn't take all that long to deliberate on his NFL future, and word is out of L.A. that Matthew Stafford plans to play in the 2025 NFL season. That's not overly surprising. That was already kind of the thought. And good news for the Rams, DRS, who are trying to build once again on 2 consecutive playoff appearances, maybe making a deeper playoff run.
And good news for Matthew Stafford's pockets as well, as he tried to play that, maybe got enticement. Don't you remember when they won the Super Bowl and the head coach, Aaron Donald, everybody was basically saying, I think we all should retire at one time. And Kroenke goes, I got more money than anybody in this league. What is it going to take to bring you guys back? That's how you play it here. Perfect by his agent. Throw a little doubt. Oh, no, the upside is there. Pay me a little bit more money. I'd be more than happy to come back. But everybody knew Matthew Stafford wanted to come back, and rightfully so. That's a good spot now to be in out in L.A.
There's been a lot of changing parts for the Rams since they won that Super Bowl in the 2021 season in Los Angeles. Super Bowl 56. They had so many changes that offseason. Guys leaving like Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, so on and so forth. A huge Super Bowl hangover in 2022. Basically everybody, including Stafford, injured. They've dealt with injuries the last few years. But DRS, from season to season, this offseason should be a little bit crystal clear. Aaron Donald retired last year. Monumental change. Very young defensively. That young defense was great by the end of the season and in that playoff victory for L.A. over the Vikings. So that improves year over year. Stafford is back. Kyron Williams back. Puka Nacua back. If Cooper Kupp can return, Tyler Higbee should be healthy from the very jump. All good signs in Los Angeles.
Yes, it is good signs. And also understand this, and I know I love to play revisionist history because it goes both ways. Let's just say that you had a good play call on 3rd and 2 inside the 20-yard line for the Rams, and it ended up being a touchdown. They probably would have been favored and probably beat Washington and headed to a Super Bowl. How crazy just a few short plays can happen and change your entire season. And you're right about this. When you start about the building blocks of a National Football League defense, it starts with young, really talented, cheap players up front. And right now the Rams have that. They can capitalize on it.
Yes, they certainly do. All right. So all that's good news, right? We talk about some acquisitions, some moving parts, some returning pieces as well. This was the headline we really needed to discuss on the Let's Go podcast that I think is Tom Brady's, alongside longtime sports broadcaster Jim Gray. Bill Belichick was making a guest appearance, as he often has, and the new head coach of North Carolina, who has won 6 Lombardi trophies as the head coach in New England, suggested that they should rename the Lombardi Trophy after Tom Brady. Donnie, what say you?
No, that's not going to happen. But you know what we can do in the NFL, which I think would be a pretty good deal, is the Tom Brady Award goes to the most cheatingest player in the National Football League for that season. You can award it just like the MVP, Defensive MVP, Player of the Year, all that good stuff here. That would be fun to watch, like the Razzies in Hollywood. Like you have the Oscars, and then you get the award for the worst performance and the worst movie. That would be fun to do, but no, we're not changing it. Lombardi is iconic in football. You raise the Lombardi Trophy. Everybody knows what that trophy is called at this point here. Why would you change it at all? It makes absolutely zero sense, and I understand with Bill Belichick probably being a little tongue-in-cheek, playing it up to Tom Brady. It's his show, and they have a good repertoire between each other. I get it, but no way, shape, or form the most iconic trophy in sports outside of probably the Stanley Cup would be changed. And then, like, what happened to the Stanley Cup? Like, hey, let's change it to the Gretzky Award. Like, that's cool. That's stupid. Don't do that. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, what are we even talking about, right? Like, no, never going to happen. Should not happen. What does Belichick need to slurp Tom Brady for nowadays? They're not even working in the same league. He didn't get the Raiders job.
You know why?
I'm glad they're buddies. What? Why?
You know why? Because here's what happens. Tom, I got the number 1 quarterback on the line here. I promised that you would take him out to dinner and throw passes with him so he can come to North Carolina. Look, come on. He's using that for back pocket fuel when he has to go after a recruit, and or it should be portal that goes, how about if you talk to Tom Brady and he sets you right here? Like, ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, he's greasing the skids right now. He is.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you said that. Listen, it's just so dumb. Like, that's one of the headlines that we react to, but it's so dumb. Vince Lombardi, by the way, 5-time NFL champion, won the first 2 Super Bowls. His name will always be on the trophy. Sure, Tom Brady has won the most of anybody, any player, any coach. He has 7. Yeah, go ahead.
Who was the only team that Lombardi lost to in a championship game? I can't think. He lost one time in a championship game. Oh, that's right. It was the 1960 Philadelphia Eagles. So knocking down dynasties, that's what the Birds do, baby. So we can all go. It all goes back to the Eagles. It always does, Ben. Always.
1960, the Green Bay Packers were 8-4. 12-game season. What are we even doing?
Yeah. Let's go back to 12, man. Ooh, that's a good time. Oh, I would have liked to have been there, Frank.
What? You remember 1960?
Tommy McDonald and the boys, man. I feel like I was reincarnated. It's probably somewhere up in the upper deck somewhere. Just didn't know it.
You want to talk about a wide receiver who would have had some success in 1960. You're looking at him on the right side of your screen. Super Bowl 59. Yeah.
Going to get rid of all the badness, if you will, over the past few decades for the Raiders and set yourself up for the future. It's a horrible job to take if you expect to win, but it's not a bad paying gig, so go ahead and take it.
With an owner in Mark Davis who has continued to make bad decision after bad decision. Does Pete Carroll leave a culture behind that Joe Brady in 2 to 3 years takes over?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
We'll see if they get McCain back. Kelly Oubre, Yabusele's been good. Caleb Martin's a defensive specialist. Andre Drummond can still give you, almost a double-double at any point. I can't go south on this team. And now you're giving it to me at 2-1 to make the playoffs? To be in the Final 8? Folks, give me the Philadelphia 76ers to make the playoffs at plus 210.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The countdown continues to dwindle. 10 days away from Super Bowl Sunday, including this day and, of course, Sunday as well. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We preview Super Bowl 59 from every angle in the long build-up to the biggest game of each and every NFL season. I don't know if you guys know this, but today is Donnie Rightside's final day on the early line for this football season as DRS is getting the big call to make the trip to the Big Easy for that big game. DRS, when do you leave for NOLA?
Sunday afternoon, having a nice flight down to New Orleans, get checked into the hotel, relax, and then away we go on a nice week here. And also, not having to wake up at 11:59 p.m. to get my next day started is going to be quite interesting. I'm not sure I'm going to know what to do with myself now. No more bedtime at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Listen, as a guy that's been to multiple Super Bowls on behalf of the SportsGrid Network, all out on the West Coast, jealous of the East Coast time swing. Wish I could be there.
All
I
you
guess it
next
won't
year.
be for me. I
San
guess I got to
Francisco
hold down
next
the
year?
fort.
You're going to be there in San Francisco, Ben? You putting the word in right now? You put a good word in
based on where things are going, I doubt it. But anyway, I'll be here holding down the fort on the early line, making sure we have really great content for you all Super Bowl week long. And we'll check in, of course, with the crew out in New Orleans.
Who takes the chair, though? Who's taking this chair, Ben? Like, who is it? Who's in this chair for next week?
Who's filling in for you next week?
Yeah, every day the same. So Ranieri 5 days.
I think it's Joe Ranieri Monday through Friday.
Okay. All right, there you go. All right, Joey Rain.
Yep, Joey Rain here on the early line. It will be me and Joe all next week. We'll check in with the crew in New Orleans. Will it be live? We shall see. Regardless, DRS, because this is your final day here on the early line, we'll get some thoughts from you on some of your early handicaps for the game later on in hour number 3. And, of course, we play Donnie's favorite game, Rate the Storyline, and how it will impact the narratives around Super Bowl Sunday. Here are the odds right now for where that latest check is. As we have said, Donnie, not all that much of a change, but slight movement on the money line. Minus 124 for the past 48 hours, now back up by 6 cents to minus 130 in favor of KC. Still a 1.5. That is the spread. Total remains the same at 49 and a hook. But the amount of money in bets on Kansas City on the FanDuel Sportsbook, at the very least, in terms of the spread component, continues to dwindle as well. We're in that lull. We're talking a couple of cents on the money line. So let's have some more fun. We start with our first storyline, rated from 1 to 10. So rate the storyline, Donnie. The Kansas City Chiefs trying to make history and go for a three-peat to become the first ever team to win 3 consecutive Super Bowl championships in NFL history.
Now, from an NFL landscape, rating that would be a 10. Why? Because nobody's ever done it before. But from a national landscape from fans, I'm going to put the three-peat at a 3 here. And the reason I bring that up is it's not because I'm an Eagles fan. Hear me out on this. Like, growing up for me in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia region, as we like to say, Ben, the national teams like the Chicago Bulls, like when they went three-peat, Jordan takes a year off, three-peat again, they had a lot of fans, and a lot of fans in areas that you're not supposed to have fans in if you have a rival team. Like I'm pretty sure in New York City, a lot of Knicks fans were actually Bulls fans here growing up, and the same thing nationally. Same thing, let's just go back with, let's just say the Lakers, who had a three-peat, right? You use them. Boy, Kobe and Shaq had a lot of fans nationally where people were tuning in and actually cheering them on to win their three-peat. I don't find that with the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, I respect the Chiefs for what they've done. Andy Reid is a fantastic head coach. Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. The storylines are there. But I don't find myself outside of, like, Kansas City Chiefs fans going like, I can't wait to watch the Chiefs win their 3rd in a row and how great that would be. It's almost the opposite. Now, granted, the Eagles tracking as the national team is funny, too, because a lot of people don't like the Philadelphia Eagles. Because I would assume if, let's just say, Washington was there, just as a new team, where it's like, hey, they're harmless at this point, they'd have a lot of national fans going like, please do not let the Kansas City Chiefs win that game. The same way in 2017, it's like, hey, hopefully the asteroid hits the earth where the Patriots don't win again and the Eagles don't get their first Super Bowl. It's miserable either way. So I do have that. But if I'm just rating it from a story perspective, from fans tuning into this game, I don't think many people are rooting for a three-peat for Kansas City.
Fans' perspective rating that storyline, probably a 2 or a 3. Broadcast, league perspective, absolutely a 10. It will be the most discussed storyline in New Orleans, more than likely even more so than the rematch and the revenge that Philadelphia is seeking. With all of it considered, Donnie, I'm going to call it an 8. I think history is cool. I try to tweet out historical facts about what we are seeing in sports and provide that context all the time. It is funny, though, how we change our perception, right? When Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid started this generational and dynastic run, it was like, wow, look at this guy Mahomes. Right into the NFL, winning the biggest games right away, winning a Super Bowl championship in his 2nd full year as a starter in this league. And good for Andy Reid to finally get one. This team is fun. It's not one of those big markets. It's Kansas City. It's a historic AFL and National Football League franchise. And then we're like, oh, cool, greatness is fun. Well, now we've seen it so many times. I'm out on this whole narrative. I still think it's cool. All rated an 8 on my behalf. And Donnie, just to put it into even further context, in the 4 major men's professional sports leagues, we haven't seen a three-peat in quite some time. Never, of course, in the NFL. 5 times in NBA history, most recently the Kobe and Shaq era in the early 2000s. We've seen it 5 times in the National Hockey League, but not since a 4-peat by the Isles back in the early 80s. We've also seen it 4 times in MLB history, most recently up until 2000 and the new millennium with the New York Yankees. So from that perspective, it would be cool, but we go from celebrating history to hating on greatness at the same time.
Absolutely. And that's the nature of the beast here. Nobody ever wants. It's like the crab in the bucket theory. Hey, that crab's getting out of here. All the crabs try to pull him back down and say, you're not escaping this here. You're coming back down with this misery. So we love misery at times, and misery would be like finally. And also, if you're looking at, other teams, and we're going to talk about Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, which is a really good one. So I don't want to blow the cover on that, but it's understandable. We don't want to see other people succeed. As Eagles fans, we want to see ourselves succeed here. Let's go.
Yeah, you want some revenge. More of that next.
Yeah. Going to get rid of all the badness, if you will, over the past few decades for the Raiders and set yourself up for the future. It's a horrible job to take if you expect to win, but it's not a bad paying gig, so go ahead and take it.
With an owner in Mark Davis who has continued to make bad decision after bad decision. Does Pete Carroll leave a culture behind that Joe Brady in 2 to 3 years takes over?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he is becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We'll see if they get McCain back. Kelly Oubre, Yabusele's been good. Caleb Martin's a defensive specialist. Andre Drummond can still give you, almost a double-double at any point. I can't go south on this team. And now you're giving it to me at 2-1 to make the playoffs? To be in the Final 8? Folks, give me the Philadelphia 76ers to make the playoffs at plus 210.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
We continue to rate the storyline. A week and a half out from Super Bowl Sunday in New Orleans, Super Bowl 59 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, one of the big narratives entering is a second Super Bowl between these same two clubs in a 3-year span. Super Bowl 57 out in Glendale, Arizona. The Eagles a slight favorite. Kansas City won outright, 38-35 over the Eagles to start their 2 consecutive wins in a Super Bowl and that chase for history that we just discussed, the Kansas City three-peat. So rate the storyline, 1 to 10, Donnie right side. And this, of course, you feel personally, the Eagles seeking revenge over the Chiefs.
Yeah, see, I got to take myself because I just rated 10, like at that point, because I'm angry still from the last Super Bowl. But nationally, I guess it can play to a 6 or a 7 at that point because I don't think you look at the Eagles and the Chiefs as ultimate rivals, right? So that's not really a revenge situation. Like, let's just say the AFC Championship game where the Bills just can't get over the hump against Kansas City. You have that whole animosity. I don't think there's animosity. Yes, Andy Reid coached the Philadelphia Eagles before, but we're happy for Andy that he got Super Bowls because we got one. Now, understand this. If we never got one and fired Andy Reid, and Andy Reid's piling up Super Bowls and preventing us from winning Super Bowls, yes, then it would be a revenge factor on 100 as opposed to 10. But nationally, I do think it's a storyline that does play out because from my perspective of watching that football game, the anger where the Eagles had the better football team and didn't win. Well, same thing last year with San Francisco. They had the better football team and couldn't beat Kansas City either. But those other objects, which I just get so upset about, the ticky-tack call at the end of the game, which if you're calling it by the book, was a penalty. It was a call on James Bradbury. It was the right decision. But in that moment, sometimes you don't think so. But the worst case of all was the best sack defense in the history of the sport was unable to actually get any sacks because it was an ice skating rink out there. So now the fact that that's not there, revenge certainly on the mind. Nick Sirianni was the coach back then. Jalen Hurts was the quarterback. You know they're building this up and playing it much, much bigger. On a national level, it does play because this wasn't, hey, it's a rematch of 1991. Like, nobody remembers that. This is a rematch of 2 years ago in a closely contested, high-scoring football game. So it does play. I'll give it a 7 nationally, but of course, it's a 10 locally in Philadelphia, but probably a 3 locally in Kansas City.
I think it's a 9. I think this is really cool. Again, it's kind of the same thing with the chase of history because we have seen the Chiefs so often in the Super Bowl. Nobody is all that happy to see Kansas City hunt down a third consecutive Lombardi trophy. But because we have seen the Chiefs often and now for the second time in 3 years, this specific Super Bowl matchup, the Eagles and the Chiefs, people are like, oh, we want some fresh blood. We don't love Philadelphia, yada, yada. This is awesome, right? This could be a budding rivalry. We have 2 young quarterbacks on either side of the league facing off once again. You've got Andy Reid against his former club. Maybe that was a bigger story back in 2022 than it is now. But this does kind of have the makings, Donnie, for as much as interconference foes can be, a little bit of a rivalry or at least familiarity. I think revenge is awesome. And the Eagles were great in Super Bowl 57, or at least Jalen Hurts. 374 total yards, 70 on the ground, was Philly's leading rusher, had 3 rushing touchdowns, 4 total TDs. Those 3 rushing scores alongside Terrell Davis, the only 2 players in Super Bowl history to have 3 rushing touchdowns in a single Super Bowl. Devontae Smith, elite. A.J. Brown, elite. That will be a focus once again. But, Donnie, I think that's where revenge really is, maybe even in regional Philadelphia. Not so much against Mahomes or Kelsey or Reed. It's against the Sodfather for taking a historic defensive front and making them look awful in the biggest game of a season with the poor footing in Glendale, Arizona. I know you're going to be boots on the ground next week in the Big Easy. They're not rolling in a new turf, are they? We're playing on the same exact turf they've had all year long inside the Caesars Superdome.
Yeah, we'll be inside the Superdome on Monday night, and I will make sure that I am on there running a couple routes. I'm going to make sure Kevin lines up as a left tackle to see if I can use that bend technique and get around it without slipping at that point. So we're going to try everything to make sure. Now, Kevin's not a center here, Joe Frizo. He was a tackle.
Why can't Kevin be the quarterback and Lisi be the tackle?
No, because it's about the defensive line. So I need like an actual offensive lineman to try to test out techniques on to see if I'm slipping, trying to get by him at that point. Yeah, we don't need the wide receivers. We need the defensive end versus the left tackle and that bend technique where you try to get low and you get your hips vertical and you can get around the outside. Like that's what we need. Yeah.
Rip through. Kevin's got a great kick step. I've seen it a time or two.
We're going to put it to the test. We are.
Social media video on Monday night coming out of the SportsGrid Network.
Version of Kevin
live
Walsh
from Media Day at the Super Bowl.
Watch out.
Hour 2's up next.